things that kind of happy stories on the social justice, and we'd like to thank the Illinois Humanities. And we have a wonderful speaker, Jamie Shoemaker, and she's won several awards, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Okay. Hi there.
Hi.
I know the majority of you, but I do this presentation. I've done it a few times across the town, and then also I just recently spoke at Blackhawk College at their mental health stuff. I did the Henry County Mental Health Alliance there just a couple years ago. So if you haven't heard of Impact yet, this is going to be about our program, but the police department, we're very passionate about this program. It's helped us to fund the dementia bracelets that you've heard about, which I'll talk a little bit about. We're spreading awareness on mental health, substance use, and crisis. So it's called Impact, Integrated Model Policing Crisis Team. You can call me Jamie. I don't go by officer, I don't go by title, okay? So, and the reason why I do that is because I want people to see me as a person. So when I'm coming to you in your crisis, I have taken the title off. That is not for every officer, that is just for me. So when I come to see people, you can call me Jamie when you see me in public, and I would prefer that, okay? So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about our program, and I'm going to let you know who I am a little bit. So my boyfriend Jesse Montez is from this area. He's also a sergeant with Rock Island County Police Department. I'm really big into fitness. I do bodybuilding competitions.
Wow.
Every other year. It's a lot of work. So he doesn't really like it when I do it because I'm not very much fun. All I do is work, eat, sleep, eat no good food that is just basically boiled chicken and salad. So it's not fun for anybody. My son is 23 years old. He just recently graduated from a Division II school in Lincoln, Missouri, and he is trying to be a professional golfer, so he's out in Arizona working currently. These are my two now children, Moxie and Roxy. They're a Mastodon and a Rottweiler, and we live out by the Rock River, so we live on the river, and it's my oasis, and I love it. So I also have on here me speaking to City Council and just talking about impact. This, when they say you're not who you are, or like with your job, right? But I'm very passionate about this program and spreading awareness. And it's not just the program, it's talking about mental health and breaking that stigma. So this is very important to me, and anybody who knows me knows that this is my passion, and spreading awareness and breaking stigma for substance use or mental illness is a passion of mine. I also work for the state of Illinois as a side job. I help train officers throughout the state to help handle mental illness crisis. So them understanding how to address somebody who is having a schizophrenic manic episode and how to address them in the proper way, because standing as a law enforcement officer, we're very intimidating in our uniforms typically and stuff. So I actually do that through the state too. So it's not only my job here, but it's also I do it as a side job through the state as well. So we're going to get a little bit of this. So we're talking a little about mental health and understanding what it is. When I first started being educated on what mental health is, I was very ignorant. I thought mental health and mental illness were the same thing. So when somebody says, oh, their mental health is bad, okay, I think there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of people aren't very educated on what that means. So mental health to me is, so when I start my day with prayer and gratitude. And it's not that I try to push religion on people, but the idea is this: I try to start in a positive mindset. So when I drive to work, I have about a 10 to 15 minute commute to work. I start with prayer, okay? And I don't want to, like I said, don't want to push religion on you guys, but I'll start with prayer and I start with gratitude. Thank you for the air in my lungs, my family, the people in my life, my mother. I go through a list of things and I start my day with that. Now what I like to say is that's the idea of starting my day with my mental health. I am checking in on myself. Obviously, being a police officer and handling people's crisis, there's a lot of negative that I kind of take in. But if I respond to your crisis, you're going to want me in a positive mindset, right? I need to be at the best that I can possibly be. So it's not fair for me to start my day in a deficit. I need to be at my best. So when I come to work, I need to start my day positively. So when I respond to your crisis, I can be in a good mindset, okay? So I encourage you to start your day. If you want to start your day with prayer, start your day with prayer, start your day with gratitude. I always like to say, I like to not ask God for things in the morning, I like to thank Him for things in the morning, right? So that's how I like to start my day. So I like to encourage you to really work on that. Like I said, I do bodybuilding competitions. My physical health, I do those things. We woke up this morning, did you drink water? Did you take the stairs when you went somewhere? taking a couple extra steps. We think about our physical health all the time, but you have to think about your mental health and how your mindset is. So it affects our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It thinks how we think, feel, and act, how we handle stress, and how we make choices. If you're stressed out, your choices, when you make decisions, they're really not the best, right? So we need to take some time and work on ourselves mentally to make sure we're making the best choices. Okay, so now what is mental illness? Mental illnesses are health conditions involving changes in emotion, thinking, or behavior. Mental illnesses can be associated with distress and or problems functioning in social, work, or family activities. Nearly 1 in 5 U.S. adults experiences some form of mental illness. 1 in 24 has a serious mental illness. 1 in 12 has a diagnosable substance use disorder. Now, that's called dual disorders. So when somebody suffers from mental illness and they use a substance, so drugs is what that means, it's called a dual disorder. So they have an addiction, but they also have mental illness. And what I really want to educate everybody is to understand that sometimes, and it's not all the time, but typically if somebody has a mental illness that's severe, they will self-medicate. Self-medicate with marijuana, with cocaine. And yes, is it unfortunate? Yes, we don't want them to do that, but some people don't have access to pharmaceutical medications. And I'll get into some case studies that we found here in Geneseo where people have turned to substance use to help themselves with their mental illness, okay? So I really like this quote. It was sent to me by another coworker from the state. She said, the brain is an organ. Mental illnesses are illnesses of that organ. A brain scan shows that there is a physical difference between a healthy brain and a sick brain. It's all in your head. It's like telling somebody with asthma, it's not real, it's all in your lungs. The brain is an organ that can malfunction as any other organ, right? So that makes sense. Like if somebody has asthma, we don't just tell them to breathe and get through it. We know that they need to be seen by a doctor. So why is it that it's so hard for us to see mental illness as an understanding? A mental illness is a disease. You know, in society, we've been programmed with different movies and things. If we see somebody, we call them crazy, right? We make jokes about that when somebody's talking to themselves or doing these things. Now, what if I tell you that person has a disease? Are we going to be more likely to joke around about their illness? No, they're sick. Nobody wants to wake up in crisis every day and be in fear for their life or think the government's trying to attack them. That would be awful, right? It's a very, very lonely disease. I like to make the analogy, like if somebody has cancer, we take them food, we take care of them, we nurture their family members and their caregivers. But if somebody's mentally ill, stay away, because the first thing if somebody's mentally ill, the first thing that goes out the window is their hygiene. They're not showering, they're not eating, and they're not sleeping. So physically, they're not very appealing to us, right? So we just kind of taboo, we just kind of step away from that. You'll see this in the news right now. I don't care what political view you have. We have so much homeless population. Now, what if I told you a majority of those homeless population are mentally ill? It's unfortunate that we don't have a lot of resources for that. That's why in Geneseo, we've kind of taken this in our own hands and we've fundraised. And so we're able to raise money to help people, right? We don't want to see people on the streets, especially if they have a disease. So if we start seeing that, it makes us have a little more compassion for those people. If somebody has schizophrenia, do we expect them to be working an 8 to 4, sitting in front of a computer? No. Not if they're not medicated or getting the correct treatment. It's very difficult. So our mission and values, let you know what our mission and values are with our impact program. Problem solving, community cooperation and collaboration, diversion, and professional development. Our mission, the mission of the Geneseo Police Department Impact Task Force is to provide a coordinated, professional, and compassionate police response to individuals affected by mental illness, substance use, or in need of crisis intervention. Impact officers will work collaboratively with family members and partnering agencies to achieve improved outcomes for individuals affected by mental illness, substance use, or suffering a crisis by connecting them to needed services and diverting them away from the criminal justice system whenever possible. Impact officers will follow up with individuals and family members to prevent future calls for service by providing access to professional assistance and crisis resources. Impact will seek to improve safety for all of our members of our community. Now our values, problem solving. We believe in identifying and addressing the underlying issues that result in police calls for service. Community cooperation and collaboration. We engage with partners from government, society, families, medical, social service professions to improve systems, relationships, and outcomes. Diversion. This is a huge one, guys, that we're really still trying to work on with our state attorney's office. We aim to reduce the involvement of the criminal justice system in a mental health response through community-based resources and service-based solutions to those in crisis. Professional development. Through training and engagement, we seek increased knowledge, understanding, and expertise in mental health and crisis response within both the Impact Organization and the Geneseo Police Department, to share our knowledge and experience with those we serve in our community and all involved stakeholders for what we do. So there's twofold to that. So the professional development, every single officer at the Geneseo Police Department, minus the one that we just got back from the police academy, are all trained in CIT. That is a 40-hour class that are trained on how to handle a mental health and substance use situation. So they're all educated on different resources, and then we took it a step further, and that's when we developed our impact program, right? So if somebody calls and they are having a crisis, if they're suicidal, or if a family member is, if there's a domestic violence situation and a mom needs to get resources, with our community collaboration, we fundraise through our city. We have a 501(c)(3), so a charitable thing with impact. And right now, currently, I think we're sitting, I just got the update, we're about $9,000 right now in that program. Now that program helps to fund people. Sometimes we paid utility bills. We had somebody in our community, the husband was the sole provider. He had brain cancer and he passed away. We paid a utility bill, right? We have transient people that come into the community. Sometimes they just don't have anywhere to go. We've done bus tickets, we've done gas. That money also is provided for our bracelets, the dementia bracelets that you guys have seen, I'm sure, on the news and stuff too, right? And we have 4 bracelets out in our community right now to help people with dementia. Now, if they were to wander, we're able to find them, okay? It is an expensive program. We did get a grant initially through Geneseo, the Geneseo Foundation. They helped us do it, and then we continue to fund the bracelets themselves and the batteries that go on there. So fundraising is really important, and also with our community, it's been amazing, and the support we've received is why we're so successful. So Geneseo is definitely unique. I just did an interview with KWQC the other day, and I was telling them we're a very successful town, and they were asking if other cities could do this, and I was like, yes, but it wouldn't look the same. Our town is definitely unique and different, and the people with the outcoming support and people wanting to help people, we have that here, and so that's why we're truly successful. So working within our community, these are our community partners, you guys. So we're very, very close to Human Hurting Hospital. We started this program, we worked with the ER staff. We're trying to make the transition safer for the people in a mental illness crisis when they come into the ER. We're working with those ER staff to make sure the transition is safe, not only for the ER staff, the person who's in crisis, and also the officer. So we're working with them as much. They are also one of our big fundraiser people, so we do a conference every year for first responders in the area. Augustana gives us the venue for free. Hammond Henry Hospital provides our lunch. They pay all of that because they're big believers in what we're doing here in the community with our impact program. Central Bank has been huge in helping us raise money. So they actually help us fundraise. I don't know if you guys went to the dueling pianos the last couple of years. All of that money went to impact. They also help us with our Dementia 5K. We just held our Dementia 5K April 1st to raise awareness on dementia and also raise money for our bracelets again. So Central Bank has been huge in helping us get that going. They're also part of our dementia task force. So they're huge in helping us too. And I'm just kind of showing you guys just how involved the community has gotten in this and why we're so successful. Our community partners, Geneseo Food Pantry. I always brag on Mike. Sorry, Barb, I'm always talking about your husband, I feel like. He's truly amazing, and he's doing such great things at the food pantry. And if you haven't been to the food pantry, please go. We're actually going to do a food drive this July, again, to help support Mike. Mike always actually, for the police department, we have bags that he gives us for the transient community and the people in need. And these bags have paper towels, laundry detergent, personal hygiene items, non-perishable food items that we're able to give to people in need. And whenever I run out, I just email Mike and I said, hey, I'm ready. And he has those bags ready for me, I swear to you, within minutes. So I can't stress enough that half of they're very pivotal in our success within the impact program. And then rebuilding together, we are actually taking medical equipment right now. We are actually doing a medical equipment drive, which we've kind of been ongoing doing this. Sarah Snyder out there, she's doing amazing work at Rebuilding Together. Is everybody here familiar with Rebuilding Together? They're out in Atkinson. They have medical equipment for people who need medical equipment. So as you can see here, Officer Berthad and I are here with walkers, crutches, wheelchairs. They have a whole room of medical equipment for people who need it that can't afford to buy these things, right? Bath chairs, everything you could possibly think of. And if you were to reach out to Sarah, she would be more than happy to give you a walkthrough for a tour. They also do the wheelchair ramps around town, so if you see those, they're actually doing that too, and they're an amazing program as well. So we help support them, and they support us just as much. Okay, so we are a dementia-friendly community. This is kind of like we talked about with the bracelets, and we have a dementia task force. Actually, Barb is a part of our task force for the library. And our dementia task force compiles of the food pantry building together, Central Bank, Black Hawk Bank, there's so many people. The city of Geneseo, we have somebody from our city hall. And so what we do is we meet quarterly and we talk about how to bring awareness, how to support caregivers in our community. And our bracelet program really came together with our task force, right? So we did our 5K. The bracelet, Sarah Snyder actually from Rebuilding Together wrote our grant to Geneseo Foundation. That initial grant was for $6,500 to start the dementia-friendly bracelet program. So we couldn't do it without everybody. And the community support, like I said, in our task force meeting, these are all volunteers, people from businesses and civilians that come together, and we're trying to help people in the community and caregivers and people who suffer with dementia, so we can offer them as much support as we possibly can. So down here, if you guys have never been to Dementia Friendly America, we went through a lengthy process to become a community. I believe there's 45 communities now within the state of Illinois, so it's not like it's everywhere. It is a pretty lengthy application process. It was very trying to get us certified, but we're certified now. But if you're interested in it, dementiafriendsusa.org, there's a 5-minute video, YouTube video, that you can get certified as a dementia friend. Okay, so what that means is you can go on there. So when you talk with somebody with dementia, one of the things that I really took away from this is you don't want to ask them open-ended questions. If you ask them open-ended questions, you're going to see that they're going to become frustrated. We really encourage you to ask the yes and no questions, right? And sometimes when I'm talking to somebody in their crisis, I forget and I just think open-ended questions, and so I have to correct myself. But it's yes and no questions when you can, because it's less confusing if they do that, okay? But yeah, if you want to check out that site, if you guys are interested at all, if you guys know somebody or a loved one that has dementia, it is a very good resource. Okay, so mental illness within our community. We do have depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, personality disorders, dementia, and Alzheimer's. It doesn't matter the size of your community, it affects us all. So I'm going to go over some case examples that we've had in our community. So Mark was in our community a while ago. But Mark was diagnosed with schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder. If anybody's ever, it used to be called multiple personalities. That's what it used to be called. Now it's dissociative identity disorder. Now, when I was talking to, I was presenting this presentation, I was told that that's like 1% of the population in the world. Like, for somebody to be diagnosed with schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder is extremely rare. We spent a lot of time with Mark. I believe it was over 200 calls for service within a year. He was disruptive. So Mark had multiple personalities. And when I first encountered Mark, you know, you think multiple personalities isn't real, right? So like I said, once again, I'm educated every time I speak with somebody that has a mental illness. And his personalities were Violet, Victoria, Tim, and Ryan, which we did find out later. Tim and Ryan were actually his brothers, but he would take on their personas from time to time. But every time I talked to Mark, I'd have to go, what would you like me to call you? And he'd be like, duh, it's Violet. And this is not what we're thinking in the news right now when we talk about transgender. This is a genuine personality. So he had different memories, different experiences with different officers. Sergeant Seifert in the back shaking his head because I think it was Violet would not go near Sergeant Seifert. No, would not go near him. We had a call right in the middle of First Street in downtown, and it took us a while, but we were able to talk him into, I was able to take him home. But he was scared to death of Sergeant Seifert. So it wasn't an aggressive state, he was scared of him. And it was a very eye-opening experience, I think, for both of us, where we realized this is not fake, this is a genuine fear. So each personality had different experiences, different emotions toward individuals, taking our time with each call to understand what Mark needs and what he was trying to say. You guys, one weekend, because we worked 12-hour shifts, I sat with Mark, and it must have been about 8 hours. and I just sat listening to him. Now, if you've ever talked to somebody in a manic state with schizophrenia, they talk a lot in circles and different subjects, and they kind of move around a lot, right? So I sat at a table, my officer safety was intact, I had another officer standing up behind me, and I sat at a table, and he paced back and forth, and he was talking. And as he's talking, what I'm trying to do is listen, right? Because I'm trying to get information that I can use later. Well, he rambled off a phone number at one point, and it ended up being his mom's phone number, and she hadn't talked to him in like 5 years. He tried to set their house on fire because he thought the devil was trying to kill his parents. So it's not that schizophrenic, people are very genuinely scared of them, but their intentions are to save people they love. They think people are after them, so they're trying to save themselves or a family member. But their mom ended up getting more protection. She had talked to him, and she was in tears because she's like, thank you, I didn't even know if my son was alive. So this gave her peace of mind. We were able to find out some information. So it's really important to listen. They will ramble, and you'll find yourself having to like hone in, because it really does move around a lot. But it's a lot of work, but like I said, this is what our impact program is trying to do. We're trying to find ways to help him. And so it's a matter of trying to get him into resources. So we tried to get him to facilities multiple times. Unfortunately, he was let out, and then he went in. We did that multiple times, and he went into the system, and then we kind of lost track of him for a while. So it's a lot of work, but what I think the best way to describe impact to people is we're taking more time with individuals and trying to see what we can do to help them, and not just take Mark to jail, right? Or just put him in the hospital and not think of it. We're trying to connect with their family. We're trying to connect to services that he's gonna need. Brenda. So this is where I was talking yesterday. I'm like, I always age myself with this one, but you guys have heard of Pee Wee Herman. Remember Large Marge, the truck driver? This was Brenda. I was explaining to this yesterday. Brenda tried to set herself on fire in a semi. State police brought her to Hammond Henry. Now the reason why she tried to set herself on fire is Brenda suffers with schizophrenia and auditory hallucinations. Now what that means is Brenda hears voices, and those voices they told her to kill herself, they tell her to kill people, okay? It is very scary, but this is a disease. Once again, is it scary? Absolutely, but this person has a disease where something in her brain is telling her to do these things, and she legitimately tried to set herself on fire, okay? So she's taken to Hammond Henry Hospital for an evaluation, and she is obviously admitted, and so the police department was having to intervene because she did not want to stay there, so she's not medicated. She also came in and she was high on methamphetamine and marijuana. Now, why is this important? Whenever I was telling you guys that people self-medicate, we dealt with Brenda for about a week straight. She was in the hospital waiting for a bed, and we were able to get her into treatment, so she went to treatment. She came back after treatment. We were able to have a conversation with her, and I was like, Brenda, why the meth, why the marijuana? And she said, because when I take the meth or marijuana, she goes, those voices go from a 10 to a 4. Could you imagine suffering that bad where you're taking meth and marijuana where she doesn't have insurance, she doesn't have access to pharmaceutical meds, her family doesn't talk to her anymore because of this disease. So she takes those drugs, street drugs, to stop the voices. Now, if a voice was telling me to kill myself all the time, what are you willing to do to get those voices to stop, right? So I'm not saying that we're okaying drugs. What I'm saying is that we need to have some compassion for what these diseases are that these people are going through, okay? So when I was talking to Brenda, what's important is when I train other officers on this too is when people are hearing auditory voices, the scary part is this, is she's hearing voices. So when I talk to her, I say, hi Brenda, I'm Jamie with the Geneseo Police Department. She'd look at me, she'd go, okay, I'm Brenda. And then she'd go back to a conversation and she was laughing. So it's a little scary. I told you she's a very large woman. And I said, Brenda, are you maybe hearing something or seeing something that I may not be hearing or seeing? She's like I said, another 20 seconds. Then she looked at me and she goes, yeah? And she goes back to her conversation with her voices. Then looks at me, I said, well, what are they telling you to do? Because that's a safety thing. If she is hearing voices or seeing something, I want to know what those voices are telling her for my safety as well and for anybody in the area. I want to know what they're saying to her. What are they telling you to do, Brenda? She said, well, they want me to kill you. Okay, so this is super scary, right? So we're standing outside Hammond Henry Hospital parking lot, and my response is this. Obviously, your guys' reaction is exactly what I want to do inside, right? But if I'm just jumping around and being all scared, that alerts her. what I did is I just took a couple steps back and I was like, okay, well, I would appreciate it if you would not do that, okay? So it's just a matter of how you're responding, your body language, your tone. We're letting her know that we're there, and so like I said, everything was peaceful and it worked out fine. Now, if I would have overreacted, that could have totally went a different direction, right? But that's why the Geneseo Police Department's trained so we don't do that and we have a peaceful transition with the hospital. So this all kind of comes full circle, right? So just understand a lot of people who suffer mental illness will use a substance with their illness, okay? So like I said, just keep that in mind. We don't condone drug use, but I just want people to see that sometimes when people use a substance, it's because they don't have access to pharmaceutical meds, and in her case, it was either these voices tell her to kill herself every day or she does that to quiet them, okay? Now Taylor's in our community, and I recently did this presentation at Central Bank, and her mom was in the crowd. It was really hard. Chief Disterhoff came to me, this has been about 2022 now, 23. No, 2022. Chief Disterhoff came to me and says, this mother in the community came to me and she can't find her daughter. She knows that she has a meth addiction and she's taking care of her kids, but she hasn't heard from her daughter in about 2 months. And I was like, well, this is before we started really impacting. I was like, well, I don't know what I can do. I took the phone number, left her a voicemail, and I did not hear from her for a while. She called me, okay, so we typically get off. We go to work at 5:45 in the morning, we get off at 5:45 at night. I gave her my cell phone number when I left my number because when a person suffers with addiction, we have a very small window to get them into recovery when they're ready. We want to get them in as fast as we can. So I left her my phone number and I said, just call me when you need me, you're not in trouble, this is Jamie Police Department, I want to get you some help, okay? So she called me at 5:44 and I saw it, I was like, oh. So I pick up my cell phone. Now I hear this blood-curdling scream and she's screaming and she's fighting for her life, and I can tell. And there is a gentleman who is beating her. And it was really hard because I'm a police officer. I want to help people. Say I don't like to hear that, right? So I'm like, Taylor, what's going on? And this guy is actually, he knows that she's on the phone with the police officer, and he's calling me names and cursing me out while he's hitting her. And so I said to her, I'm like, can you get somewhere, just get somewhere safe? Now, Officer Berthad in this time frame comes into my office. I'm telling her what's going on. She goes up to her dispatch, finds out the location of where this is happening because there had been some calls for service. This is out in Bureau County, by the way, so we're an hour away. We find out kind of the location of where she's at. So Officer Berthad's on the phone with dispatch. I'm on the phone with Taylor. I pick up the landline to call her mom, and I said, can you get out to Bureau County if we get Taylor safe? And she says yes. Now, we are able to get Taylor into Geneseo and get her into a hotel room. We know that she is using a substance, right? So we don't want her to go home with where her kids are at with her mom. So Officer Berthad worked night shift, and we got her into a hotel. Using impact funds, we paid for that hotel room for Taylor. Officer Berthad checks in on her throughout the night. I pick her up in the morning, and I bring her into our office. Now she's ready for help. She's ready to go into treatment. Here's my ignorance. I thought it was going to be super easy to get her into inpatient. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. It took me about 8 hours. This was a Saturday morning, mind you, so even a weekend also. So now somebody wants help with their addiction, and I can't find them placement. So I had to call down a couple facilities. I did lie. Don't tell anybody. But it was a detox facility. And the detox facility said if she's using methamphetamine, she has to have used within the last, I think it was like 8 or 4 hours. Well, we know now she was in the hotel room, we know there, and I was like, yep, she just used just an hour ago. I don't tell many lies, but that one I felt like was a very important lie to tell. We got her into treatment. We were also then able to get her into a facility after the detox, which was the detox was about for 4 days. Then she transitioned into Gateway. Gateway is a longer placement for mental health and substance use. Because we don't want to just address the drug use, because the reason why she's using the drugs is because there's depression, right? She's a hard home life. We need to address those larger issues, which is the root of the problem. She's not just using drugs because it's fun. She's using drugs because of her severe depression. So we were able to get her in there. She was clean for 100 days. She actually spoke at one of my conferences, and it was just really empowering, but she did relapse. And she went into jail. I think she had a minor retail theft. And she got out of jail, and I was her first phone call. Isn't that crazy? So you get out of jail, and the first place you call is the police department? How rare is that? So she calls me, and I go, oops, I think I did it I said, well, what does it look like now? Like, what does your recovery look like now? There's a saying with people who have an addiction, you have to meet them where they are at in their recovery. You can't force somebody to want recovery, they have to want it. And so, Taylor, do you want to go inpatient again, or would you prefer to go, or do outpatient? She's like, outpatient. But I worked with her on that. Her and I have a very good relationship, and her and I talk pretty frequently. So it's been, I'm going to read you guys a letter that she wrote me. But so her and I built this relationship. She trusts me. I'm a police officer and she's a drug addict. How often do you see that? Where that's the relationship and she trusts the police department. She knows we're here to help, okay? So when she was in inpatient treatment, she wrote me a letter and it says, "Dear my addiction, it's like I had control until I didn't. At least that's what I tell myself. Somewhere along the way, you took over the reins. Everything that was so important to me all of a sudden didn't matter much anymore. My values, friends, family, even belongings slowly began to disappear. One by one, blink after blink, until there was nothing left. I kept looking in the mirror, yet was nowhere to be found. It's like a loved one was shot in the heart each time I let you race through my veins. So much pain that I caused because I couldn't just walk away. I'm all alone now, just me and just you. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted? I've struggled in the streets, cried myself to sleep. I've lied, I've made broken promises, even though unintentionally still shattering the hearts of what should have been my world. My obsession with you was so out of hand, not even my children could reel me back in. They would beg, they would cry, though I only heard your call. How did this happen? When did you gain so much control? I hate what you made me, I hate you so much. What I hate most though, I don't even hate you at all. Today I take away all your power, hand back over the reins. Now it's me in control. Today I make amends, say goodbye my old friend. Dear methamphetamine, I never want to see you again." How powerful is that? I just want you to hear this letter and know that even though somebody has an addiction, it doesn't mean that they're not still a person with a heart and a soul in there. The addiction is not them. It's just something that, you know, that's their part of their disease, okay? Yes. Okay. So this is a juvenile female. Just multiple things going on here. So suffers from anxiety, has panic attacks. She skips a lot of school, attempted suicide, went to the hospital, had her stomach pumped. Teen pregnancy, sexually abused by a family member. Father has an addiction to drugs, used a needle and contracted hepatitis C, then progressed to liver cancer, and he passed away from his addiction. Sister has an addiction to methamphetamine and lost custody of all 3 of her kids. It's a lot, right? It's me. This is my story. And I really like to share this with people because I think it's easy to just, I overcame a lot, and that's why, I think people see this and they think, oh my gosh, I can't believe we went through all that stuff. Now I'm going to break this down for you. So I still have anxiety. I see a doctor, I've gone to therapists. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I do have medication that I take for anxiety. I now think sometimes I'm just an overthinker. So I am an empath, and I do definitely overthink. I did skip a lot of school in high school, and I did have a teen pregnancy. My son's 23, you guys. I'm only 41. Okay, so let's. And when I was 18, prior to that, at 16, I had some bullying going on at school. I was popular, and this is the part that when I do this presentation for younger kids, because like I do it at like UT, they have their career stuff, and I talk to the high school kids. I was popular, but it did not mean that I was not bullied. Okay, so I had a severe bully situation, and I took a bunch of pills, and I took it down with like I think a wine cooler. I did end up I woke my mom up and I went to the hospital, and I had taken so much that I did have to have my stomach pumped. Now the part is I would like to let everybody know is the staff was super mean to me. And now looking back as 41 as a police officer, I look at this and I'm like, how dare they? I was 16 years old and it was my crisis. I didn't do this to them, I did this to myself. Now what we say about suicide is this: somebody does not commit suicide. Somebody dies by suicide, okay? Somebody doesn't just commit suicide, they die by that disease. Does that make sense? Now that we're kind of talking about this a little bit. So when somebody goes through that, they're not doing that to somebody. That's to them, that's their crisis. So we have to treat them with some compassion. So that's something that I've kind of taken away. I was sexually abused by a family member. I went to therapy for that, and I'm able to talk about that now. That's something that I overcame. My biological dad had an addiction the majority of his life. He was a good person, and I was very angry with him for a long time. But what I realize is this, is he did have mental illness, that I was able to find out more information about his disease, and it's extremely unfortunate. I wish I had him still, but he died from his disease. My sister does have an addiction to methamphetamine. Actually, my sister's birthday was yesterday, and she is in drug court in Rock Island County. Henry County is working on getting a drug court together, by the way. So she is in a halfway house in Rock Island County, and she is, I think, a couple weeks sober at this point. So there's always that. I set healthy boundaries with her because there's been a lot of damage there with my sister. But I love my sister, and I want her to get help, so I do everything I can to support her, but I do set those boundaries, right? Yeah, all this stuff's really bad, you guys, but honestly, I was thinking, I'm like, you don't want to thank God for putting you through situations, because this is not anything fun for anybody. But I think that God blessed me because I'm able to use these and help people, because I don't see people for what the situation is right there. I'm like, if you were to know me then, for who I am now, this is the reason why I'm able to help people, is because of all these things that I've gone through, okay? So sometimes adversity makes us have these success stories, but there's reasons why you have to go through things sometimes, is so you can help other people. And I truly believe that more and more all the time.
Jamie, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You were at Rock Island, weren't you?
Rock Island deputy, yeah.
Yeah, no. This is an amazing story. It's unbelievable. It's great. But could you tell us a little bit about how you got from there to here? You got all these officers. I know they appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're doing all the jobs and stuff like that. But could you just give us a kind of a history of how you got there? And are other police departments just lucky to have all this stuff all in place?
Yes.
I'd just like to hear that.
So you want to hear how I got to be a police officer? Or?
All that too, just how you got from there to here.
Okay, so I came up, so I was Rock Island County deputy for 6 years, working night shift. I showed you my boyfriend is Rock Island County, so they decided to pass a nepotism policy. So if I'm going to be completely transparent with you, the reason why I left Rock Island County, and actually here's, if you want a God sign, we got a call that they were going to take away my seniority and move me to a different shift, and I was like, I'm not doing it, I worked way too hard. So he goes, okay, why don't you apply somewhere else? I got on the internet, and Geneseo was hiring for one more day. One more day, and I submitted my application, but it went to the spam folder.
Oh.
So they didn't call me, and I was like, well, I feel like I'm okay, you know, but I saw Brian Hars, maybe you guys know him, but he actually works for Henry County, and I saw him at the community center, and I was like, yeah, I applied. He goes, you did? He calls Deputy Chief Cars and is like, hey, Jamie Shoemaker applied, because I don't think they had too many people apply at that time, and I got a call right away, and he's like, your application went to the spam folder. So they actually called me, and we set up an interview, so I made it. So I came out here, worked on night shift for a little while, and then the task force was started because Chief Casey and Chief Carson, they came to me and they were like, we're going to watch this documentary, it's Ernie and Joe, it's a documentary. In Dallas, these two officers started a mental health task force. We all watched in our whole department. I think I was one of the first officers to go to CIT. Did that start it off? Yeah. So the CIT class I was telling you guys about was the first officer. Well, I came back, and if you get to know me, if I get an obsession on something, I don't stop. I'm very persistent. So they said, start this task force, and I tell them all the time they created a monster, because this task force blew up to the point that I don't think people realized how busy we were going to be. So the task force basically got started, and it was just going to start off as a mental health task force, and then Taylor came into our lives, and then we kind of like evolved. And I always tell people, I'm like, I feel like our impact program evolves all the time. The dementia-friendly community was just another thing that we tack on. The fundraising was just another thing that we tack on. People started hearing about our successes out here, so other agencies reached out, and they were like, what are you guys doing? We want to do it too. And I think that when you help people that are in these crises, it's the most rewarding work, because we're not taking somebody to jail, we're taking somebody to inpatient. And part of our job, yes, as police officers, we take people to jail, we arrest them, we do those things. And trust me, I will go hands-on when I have to, okay? But when somebody has a mental illness, we need to start seeing that disease. So somebody has to be the first. Some department was gonna have to be the first, and I always like to say, I like Geneseo to be the first. I always like to look professional, I like us to be the best. And so we showed through compassion. We did start educating people on what was in our community, and I think people were surprised. But that's kind of how we developed this. All of this, I'll be honest, this presentation has expanded, right? So I kind of added this on later on because I was like, you know, people need to hear it. When I'm talking about breaking stigma, and I'm up here and I talk about all this stuff and all the great things, all these awards that I'm getting, right? I'm getting another award in June for the state for this work. And it's for community work. It's about doing these things in the community. This comes very easy when you're passionate about it. And I saw this was like, what's the success in law enforcement? And I listen to affirmations and positive speeches all the time. If you're passionate about something or compassionate about something, it isn't a job. It just comes naturally. So I am very persistent. I don't like to be told no. And when it comes to helping people with a disease, I feel like it's pretty easy. There's a right and wrong. And I live and breathe this, and anybody who knows me knows that I do. So I guess it just kind of unfolds every time we help somebody. I feel like it just evolves more. So.
Do you ever dream you'd be able to stand up and tell this story?
No.
I mean,
No, because I'm telling you, I ran into like my assistant principals and stuff like that, and they're like, they can't believe it. No. No, it's totally, it's definitely different. And no, I don't think people would have realized that either. I've had family members that have said the same thing, so it helps me to know that, like I said, just even dealing with this, I think that I was praying the other day and I was thinking about this, and I was like, I don't want to thank you for putting me through this, but thank you for the adversity so I can see people for people. Because having things easy given to you, it's not a, you know, the return isn't so great, right? The feeling of success isn't so great. So I'm able to see people, and when I tell people this, when I can relate to them a little bit, it always helps me to be able to do that too. So yeah, so but thanks for asking. So everybody has a story. The Geneseo Police Department is committed to listening and supporting our community. We strive to understand and assist those in crisis, recognizing that every individual's experience is unique. By fostering empathy and providing help when it's needed most, we can make a real difference. Just taking a little more time and an extra step to help somebody is not only my job as a human being. So Mark, the individual I was telling you about before, so when he was in his manic episode, he says to me, remember I told you they talk in circles like that? He says, Jamie, we're not just human beings, we're humankind, so just be kind. And I go, I'm stealing that, Mark, I'm gonna use that. So I like to use that, but that's kind of what we're doing. And do you guys have any questions on our program, or so I know I answered a lot about myself? No? And this is my information. If you call the department and you guys ask for me, sometimes people have questions about their loved one or something, please feel free to call or reach out, and definitely we're here to help. So that's it. Yeah. I broke the clicker.
That's right, Casey by it.
Jamie,
Yes.
do you want to tell them about the senior expo or anything coming up that you're involved with here in Geneseo?
Oh, yes, actually, Officer Fathod's running the Senior Expo, but our dementia, yeah, it's part of it. Our Senior Expo, they're having in August 22nd at the Community Center. They're going to be doing a Senior Expo with different vendors and different educational pieces. We will be doing something on the dementia bracelets to show